Recently, I set myself the challenge to write some music using Labs libraries exclusively as the sound source. For this piece, the starting point was the dulcimer tremolo patch in Labs, which I used to create a bed of sorts to work upwards from. Shifting the patch down 2 octaves creates a completely different tonal and rhythmic soundscape. This is further manipulated by adding a vocoder with a lot of the odd harmonics reduced to clean the sound up. I recorded about a minute of sustained notes and then found a section that looped well over a bar to create a pulse. I then twisted the sample up some more with EQ, saturation and rhythmic gating to create a beat. This is the only flattened audio in this project. With a bass to work from, I started vamping some chords with the soft piano in Labs. The frozen strings violin patch was layered underneath to create a deliberately soft introduction, further emphasised with ambient rhythm from the percussion patch of the London Atmos library. The percussion goes to a big reverb to add more space and atmosphere to the environment, with quite a bit of automation on the send for variation. By this point, I felt like the direction needed to change slightly, so I brought out the strings library in Labs, using the long patch to create a short chord sequence. To link this section to the introduction, I used the soft piano again, with saturation and high-pass EQ to manipulate it slightly. Mimicking the frozen strings violin in the intro, the frozen strings cello patch plays a slightly simplified growing cluster of notes. Using one of the synth pads, I created a simple riser effect with rising pitch shift. Here the variation of the sound also changes as the pitch rises. I made a short breakbeat loop with the drums patch, pitch shifted up in Labs with saturation, tough EQ and limiting. Then it was time for the real action. Like with most electronic music, the driving force here are 2 elements, the drums and the bass. For the drums, I used Ableton's drum rack feature to split out each note of the drums library onto a different channel for processing. The kick I tightened up slightly with some transient shaping. Snare took some saturation EQ, and the 3 hi-hat hits were all given pretty sharp high-pass EQ to make more room for the kick and snare. The track then took some additional, fairly brutal processing with an effects rack I've built in Live, consisting mostly of EQ and multiband compression. An additional layer of Labs drums, hi-hats, pitched up almost an octave, add to the rhythm, with the breakbeat from the intro continuing too. Before adding bass, I continued the musical theme from the break with just the low strings playing the root and another synth pad taking the chords. This allowed a bit more room for more harmonic elements, and a mono panning effect was applied to mimic that sidechain to the kick effect prolific in dance music. For the bass, more synth pads. I found a nice long patch that has a good evolution to the sound, and then destroyed it in Isotope's trash. Notching out some wide frequency bands cleans it up and allows room for other elements. A bit of sidechain compression reduces the bass when the kick hits, allowing for a cleaner mix in the sub-frequencies. Throughout the main section, both violin and cello frozen strings evolve together to create these delicate wisps of sound that I feel juxtapose the main elements, but also complement them at the same time. The first 8 bars feature the Tarango library with a strummed guitar rhythm, but pitched up an octave, as the mid-range was already quite busy. Then, in the 8 bars that follow, more rhythmic effects. This time from the shift pipe patch in the modular pianos library. Here, I built a pulsing reverb effect in Live that grows in response to the sound. You can see the automation driving dry-wet control, which allows the effect to build. I also reintroduced the high-pass piano melody from the intro to bring each section together musically. Everything you are hearing here is playing live out of Labs, with the exception of the resampled dulcimer loop from the intro. Labs is an incredibly versatile set of free libraries from Spitfire Audio, and this was a great challenge to see how it works in different musical environments. I'm looking forward to seeing what I could do with it next.